Welcome to the 55th broadcast of the t-roh Show. This is your host, Keith.
Good afternoon. This is Stu.
And we have a couple of things to talk about today. We've got a correction from last week's broadcast, which is the deal about New Jerusalem was from the 19th broadcast, not the 18th. That was my fault. So what we did was when we did that broadcast, we were mentioning that it was Elohim City, and that's because we weren't ready to divulge that it was actually New Jerusalem. So we overlaid it with Elohim City until it was time to go ahead and stay or say exactly what it was. So it was time, and went ahead and made a mistake and said it was the 18th, but it's actually the 19th broadcast, and it will tell you everything in detail about the New Jerusalem, where it is, and all that. And we're going to be talking next week about the a social assistance program that's been in place since 2015. And we talked about that. We're talking about it because it's a program that we believe does work, and we'll explain it in detail and try to get some of the delegates from the United States and Congress assemble on here to help along with that project. And what we want to talk about today is the Universal Postal Union. And a lot of people don't know what this is. This is a union that was started of world postal systems, all the post offices around the world. From 1874. This was after the what they call the Civil War, but it really wasn't the Civil War. It was just a war. And the Universal Postal Union was formed with a bunch of monarchs in it, and they added in the United States of America, which was right here in the heading. And this was the 1781 country, not the 1789. And these were the countries that were involved with it, concluded between Germany, Austria, Hungary, Belgium, Denmark, Egypt, Spain, France, Great Britain, Greece, Italy, Luxembourg, Norway, Netherlands, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Serbia, Sweden, Switzerland, and Turkey. This was called the General Postal Union at the time, and it was changed, I think, 4 years later to the Universal Postal Union. And there's the title, General Postal Union, right there. And most of these countries were monarchs, and some of them have been, their governments have changed, but the union is still there. And today you call it the UPU. So if you put in UPU on the internet, you can go take a look at it and let you know that it does exist. Now, why they're implicated in international trafficking in persons is because the Committee for the Government of the United States of America operates under the authority of Article 6, Section 6.1 of the Articles of Confederation as amended August 5th, 2015. This is the original Articles of Confederation of 1781. They were amended by a political party that is known as the North American National Party today. And this, I think, this was the third amending that we had done, because in one aspect, the original Articles of Confederation was written terribly. It had very little organization to it, and it needed to be amended. There wasn't any argument there. It did not need to be replaced in any way, shape, or form. So this international public notice starts back in September 15th, 2012, when the Universal Postal Union was notified of a major discrepancy within its treaty. Even though the country named the United States of America was on the treaty heading, not one representative from the United States of America ever signed it. Details in here with proof of service. So we sent this to them with a letter, and basically stating it has come to the attention of the Office of the Postmaster General for the United States of America that according to the archives of the treaties and other international agreements of the United States of America, and this was theirs, 1776 to 1949, compiled under direction of Charles Bevins, and that's just details crap. That the United States of America was invited to sign the original treaty concerning the formation of the General Postal Union. It appears that a representative of the United States of America was not present to sign the treaty at the time. And we keep mentioning Beak Fan over and over again. We keep trying to tell people what's going on. And what they did was, and this is one of the secrets that they had. This is a 2-year law student that showed up, and his name was Joseph H. Beakfan, and he was there under the 1789. That did not represent, if the Articles of Confederation had been replaced, they had the wrong entity in there. Now, why does that make a difference? And we've noticed, especially in the comments on YouTube, some people will say, well, what difference does it make if you do this, this, and this? It makes all the difference in the world in international law. You just have to accept that fact. There's no arguing about it or anything of that nature, because these entities show intent, show international characters, and they identify parties. Identity is extremely important in international law. It's one of the most important things they are, because identity could mean the difference between peace and a world war. If you don't know the difference and you can't identify things, you won't know if you're being tricked into a war by a third party, or the party that that is trying to or you think is coming to war against you is actually doing it. So sometimes, and this happens a lot, there are third parties that come in that mimic another party, a major country, to try to start conflicts and wars, to get them all started going, so they can sell whatever or do whatever reason they're doing it. So if you see this name here, Germany, that has never changed. Their government has changed a couple of times, but the name has never changed. Austria, same thing. Hungary, same thing. Belgium, same thing. Denmark, Egypt, Spain. These countries have been in place for a very long time, and you've noticed that their country name never changed. So when the country was established after the Revolutionary War, this was the name of the country, right here. And apparently, these other countries knew it. What they didn't know was that this guy who signed it, he was an imposter. They never checked it. He was not a representative of that entity. So just wanted to let you know how important that is. That's huge. Okay, and the reason why they did this was very simple. There was another plan in place. There were third-party interveners trying to come in, and they had another mission they just didn't want anybody to know about at the time, at 1874. So due to the basic arrogance of the UPU, because we sent this to them, they ignored the notice. The government of the United States of America did not have nuclear weapons, so why listen to it? And we even told them that. I've sent emails to the UPU plenty of times, chewing them out, basically stating that you guys didn't have nuclear weapons, or since we don't have nuclear weapons, you're not going to listen to us. And it's a way, it's basic human nature in this world, that if you don't have a army that can plummet somebody, then nobody listens to you. And that's how far we've come in the world, and and human beings evolving into something that is of mutual respect, regardless of power. That isn't the basic attitude of most countries today. It says "Might makes right," as is their motto. And we've heard this from other countries around the world. They really don't like the United States. It's just a simple fact that they could kill them, and they plummet people. That's the only reason why they listen to them. The only reason, no other reason. A lot of them just don't want to do business with them.
Yeah, the old neighborhood bully concept.
Yeah, yeah, they just don't, it's like, ugh, okay, oh yeah, United States, yeah, well, you're great, you're wonderful, blah, blah, blah. It's because they give a bunch of money away, your money, by the way, because they have a bunch of slaves that produce for them. And so they just give that money out to everybody. And they have nuclear weapons that work. And they have a military that could come in and plummet them. And that's the only reason that they listen to them. It's not that they like them, but that's the only reason. It's the way it works. And I'm telling you, that is a very lonely condition. The only reason why these people are talking to me, I was thinking about it this way. If you were that way, put yourself in the United States position. If you were there, the only reason why people are talking to you is because they have to. That tells you a lot. Um, so the government of the United States of America tried one more time to notify the UPU on September 26, 2013 of the mistake, and it received the same response. However, this time the government did not waste any resources on mailing a hard copy, so it emailed the notice to the UPU. I just emailed it to the info desk. I didn't spend any time. We didn't want to put any money in there. So they know about it. They've had the notice. They know what's going on, and they know that their union is screwed. The parties were not there. It was done in fraud. And so that makes the UPU a fraud. Because ever since that time, they haven't had a proper representative to vote in the director of the UPU. So they have never had a director of the UPU on paper. But they just keep going like nothing happened. So at that time, the government of the United States of America did not know where this would lead. So it kept the records just in case they were needed at a later date. Says the Committee for the Government of the United States of America was handed a document about 2 weeks ago laying out a plan to fund state roads, improving them from mud to hardtop in 1916. It was called the Federal Aid Road Act of 1916. In the act, it spells out the plan for a federal venue to assist funding a road or state road projects. Just keep in mind that the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 had already been signed 3 years earlier. And they were using what? They were using this act here to implement this act here under this treaty, the Universal Postal Union Treaty. They were imposters. So one of the paragraphs there, and you can see the whole document. We put the whole document in here. Everybody that wants to see it, you're welcome to go take a look. Check us. It's fine. We're good to go. Okay. Now, the Post Road program was plagued with problems. And the reason why is because it's illegal as hell. That's why. It says many state and local officials resented OPR's oversight for their projects. It wasn't resentment. They were saying they didn't have the authority to do it. But they try to sell it like that. According to the report to Congress, on the program, local officials showed a disposition frequently to avoid the obvious requirements of the present act. State and local officials also objected to certain federal requirements, such as federal statute requiring an 8-hour day for workers and a 1915 executive order barring convict labor on government work. The U.S. Attorney General eventually concluded that because their projects were not the public work of the United States, these restrictions did not apply. It's because it was done by private organizations. Federal Reserve Act right here. It was done by this organization, and this was being done by the private Congress. This is private membership association. It's a company. So they said, oh, these restrictions didn't apply. Now, here's the link to it. It says the aforementioned paragraph proves a couple of facts. Federal Reserve is privately owned as a private membership association. Further, the post roads under the UPU were used to assist the British Empire to privately obligate the states under a foreign power and treaty. Now, the Masonic Order had already paved the way in its charter of 1787, wherein all treaties have the force of statute against the states. Okay, this is why this was a federal statute. It was under a treaty somewhere. So there were two elements of illegal invasion of the states by a foreign power: perpetual debt bondage and statute. A private membership association had no authority over the post roads and rural-free delivery routes at any time, nor did it have the authority to regulate any postal roads, no matter where those postal roads were established. There are many, this would be like today, okay? Costco is a private membership association, it's a club, and it's claiming to run the post roads today. So if you can get that, you understand what's going on, what was going on back then. The Federal Reserve was a private company, private membership association. It has member banks, and it was trying to fund the post roads so that they could get in, because they were getting ready to turn their Federal Reserve notes into a British American Union in the 30s through Roosevelt. So they were getting ready to do that. So they set all this stuff up 15 years earlier. So says there are many other paragraphs that can be quoted. However, the information is downloadable. So you can download this and you can take a look at it and see how it worked. Now, under the history of the Social Security number is proof of identity wherein the person is trafficked offshore trust called the Internal Revenue. This topic has been covered in previous publications. We have done that, and that you can click those. And it'll take you right to them, and it'll show you the report and everything laid out for you. It says, in the present time, the State of the Union is as follows. The United States Postal Service uses addresses that are firmly planted in an offshore trust and private postal zones issued by a private offshore trust called Puerto Rico Internal Revenue and other offshore trusts. There's a couple of different names for them. Under the Internal Revenue, thereby funding the British Empire to bring about a world government wherein the people are enslaved under one king. Now, that would be the British Israel Union. Okay, this is called trafficking in persons in violation of protocols to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially in women and children, blah, blah, blah. So this is what we're saying to you. If you have a Social Security number, you've been trafficked. That's your person was trafficked offshore into a private trust. It was given a title under the British Empire called U.S. citizen, and then put back onto under residency into the states of the Union from where you were born, because that's what your birth certificate says. And that's why they don't use your birth certificate as identity. They don't want that evidence in the trust. And you fall under trading with the enemy. You're now an enemy. The U.S. citizen is an enemy of the states of the Union that are being controlled by the Grand Masters of the United States, the Masonic Lodge. That's what's happening. It happens to you every day. Now,
Still happening.
Yeah, it's still happening today. Right now, as you are sitting here listening to this program, it's happening.
Regardless of what Trump's doing.
Yeah, Trump isn't fixed this at all. He hasn't even touched it. He's still writing his executive orders that he said he would never write. So, and give the power back to the people. Well, obviously, when the power is not back to the people, I mean, think about it. Unless he relinquishes it, that's different, but it hasn't been relinquished yet. So this is the treaty right here. This is Article 3, the use of terms of the purpose of this protocol. Now, bring yourself to today, okay, and think about a Social Security number and people applying for Social Security numbers and these things, and see if this actually fits. Now, trafficking in persons, this is under the treaty we're talking about, shall mean the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons. By means, now this is talking about your person, your all cap name person. It's a fiction, yes, and it's a person. Okay? But it means a lot. By means of the threat or use of force or other forms of coercion or of abduction. Now, judges do this every day. People try to get rid of their Social Security numbers, and then what do? They threaten you. Of fraud. Yeah, there's fraud there. Of deception. Yes, there's deception. of the abuse of power or the position of vulnerability or the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person. Y'all get that? Receiving of payments. These are your Social Security payments. They have you by the, by the waivos there, or benefits to achieve the consent. So they're saying, if you accept the payments, we have consent. No, you don't. That's against the law. Of having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. Yes, they're exploiting you for votes into a British Union empire. And the purpose is to make the states of the Union a plantation and or a colony of the British with the help and consent of the people in charge of the British, which is the Netherlands, the Dutch. And they're using the UPU treaty to do it. See, all this goes around in a circle. Then they get into the exploitation shall include, at a minimum. This is just at a minimum here, guys. Very specific in the wording. The exploitation of the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services. Here we go. That's us. Slavery or practices similar to slavery. There it is. That's American. That's a U.S. citizen. Servitude or other, or the removal of organs. What is this? Where did they do this? This was under Planned Parenthood, right?
So last I knew it was.
That's right. They traffic the persons offshore and remove their organs. Planned Parenthood. Now, the consent of the victim of trafficking in persons is to the intended exploitation set forth in subparagraph A of this article shall be irrelevant where any of the means set forth in subparagraph A shall have been used. So this means there's no excuse. Okay? Now, this is...
And also, I'm interpreting that, Keith, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm also interpreting that paragraph to say that they know, the folks that compose this know that this is in existence, and they know that it's devious, diabolical, and well managed. Therefore, they're saying, consent, no. These people are being hoodwinked beyond reason. So we're not even going to address the consent thing.
Yeah,
we're not even going to acknowledge it.
Exactly, and so they're saying, in other words, so people believe that the UN is this, that, and the other thing, but there are good people in the UN that are fighting for you. Okay, they're fighting for the states of the Union, and they're fighting for these things, and there's a good reason why they wrote it this way. Okay, and here's the link. If you want to go check it, it's the link right there. You can go read it yourself. And Beak Fans United States of America, that entity, did sign it 2005, November 3rd. They're subject to this treaty. They got 450 million violations of it. However, it is what it is. The General Post Office of the government, this is number 2. General Post Office of the Government of the United States of America is delivering the persons under resident declaration and oath or affirmation from the offshore trust back into the states of the Union under the proper name of the country, which is the United States of America. This is being done by choice. The government of the United States of America is not forcing anyone into the states of the Union. So, what do you want? You want choice? Or do you want trafficking? Right here. Choice, traffic. Which one do you want? Now you have a choice. Now, the General Post Office has attempted to contact the Universal or the United States Postal Service many times to create a bridge by and between, and all the General Post Office received was the USPS was under a non-compete contract and delivered domestic mail. They even freaked out in Mississippi when we were using our stamps. Remember that?
I do.
Yeah, this is domestic delivery. This is domestic. It's like, you idiots. All right. They don't realize there's trafficked persons that are whining about domestic delivery. Think about it. How ironic that is. So you just kind of look at them, shake your head, move on. The General Post Office believes that trafficking in persons and all of that entails trumps a non-compete contract. Okay. Your little contracts in violation of major treaties, human rights, war crimes. Yeah, I think it trumps your little nefarious contract. The traffickers in persons under the UPU forced a non-compete upon the USPS in order to restrict any interference with its trafficking in persons activities. And to add to that, they entered in the 9/11 system under an emergency, as if to say that under their 1789 Constitution emergency clause, they were able to keep this in place. It was okay to traffic them. Well, it's under emergency. So in conclusion, the traffickers in persons changed the name of the Postal Department and removed its Postmaster General out of its executive branch under a private membership association to avoid the liability of its trafficking activities, which, by the way, folks, they've moved all the offices in to the states of the union to protect their activities under private contract. And this is the rule they use. It says this legal move amounts to trafficking the person of the Postmaster General of the USPS into the states of the Union under the protection of its First, Fifth, and 14th Amendment in Rule 17B3A of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. And here's the link to that. Okay? So they're saying that the USPS can't sue or be sued. So they threw them in there. They threw them on they just jumped the fence from the restricted side of their agreements to the unrestricted side, and used that restricted side to protect them. It's slick and tricky, but it is what it is. Then they followed it up with a Declaration of Interdependence in 1976, and we've got the link to that. You can that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other t-roh show.
Yeah, did we cover that in t-roh show?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we went into it, covered up this missile. All right, it says, therefore, the General Post Office of the Government of the United States of America is the only national government that exists within the metes and bounds and seaward boundaries of the country. This other thing is all torn to pieces. It always has been. It's always been a mess. There's always been some underlying crap that they've been trying to do. It says the government of the United States of America does not expect any response to the international public notice, this one, nor any other international public notice coming from the UPU, USPS, nor the US, because they are all involved in trafficking in persons, of which the United States of America did in fact sign the aforementioned treaty on November 3rd, 2005. So the government of the United States of America will go into more details as to how trafficking in persons affects those that have been trafficked in their personal lives at a later date. Now, in case you think that we're just blowing smoke and we're just saying it to try to look big and bad on the internet and on YouTube, there you go, folks. This is where it was sent. It was sent to the Director General of the International Universal Postal Union, right here. It was sent on 9/15/2012 at 1:37 p.m. We weren't kidding. It was sent to Bern, Switzerland. That's their address. They know it's happened. And yes, we have done that. So we're not trying to just sound all big and bad, powerful and all that. This is exactly what we did. And we did this back when we were relatively unknown, even though we had put notices out. Okay? So that means we're serious about this. Extremely serious. It's a serious issue. Because you've got a lot of people that are trying to say that they're not U.S. citizens and they don't want Social Security numbers, and they're being forced into it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
you have
and
one.
yeah, and back we made the comment about Trump. Trump's trying to clean up, and it appears that there's people retiring and not running for elected office, and he's having some sort of an impact over on their side. But the reality is, if they don't address the trafficking, there's not really that much change occurring.
Exactly.
They're changing puppets is really what they're doing.
Yeah, they're trying to clean up all the dirty, the guys that did all the dirty work out of there to make it appear as if everything's legitimate.
Right, exactly.
So they hired so this is the way it works, folks. They hire one guy that everybody hates to do all the dirty work, and then when the dirty work is done, they want to come back out and say, "Oh, well, you're a fraud. You're this. You're that," and then they sweep them aside, and it makes it appear as if they're righteous and clean and trying to do the right thing and honest, when in fact they're the ones that hired the guy.
Right, and miraculously, all the policies stay in place.
Yeah, that the dirty guys did. That's what.
Yeah.
All the dirty work. So they're just throwing the guys that did all the dirty work for them under the bus. And that's why they're saying, "We hate you. We hate you. That's why they keep saying that. They don't hate them because they're evil and they don't like righteousness in the light of righteousness. They hate them because they're getting screwed over. Because they're getting thrown under the bus. Hey, you guys wanted us to do this. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing.
That's right.
And now you're throwing us under the bus, and you're embarrassing us and doing all these things. You hired us to do this job, and now you're throwing us under the bus. So it's messed up.
Yeah.
What's really what everybody's witnessing, man, it's messed up.
Yeah, but the fraud and the policies remain in place.
Yep, everything stays the way it is. And it's the equivalent of a king hires some unscrupulous people to do some things for him, and then he just throws them into a freaking dungeon. It's the same difference. You're throwing them into Guantanamo Bay. It's the same difference. Nothing's changed in this world, folks. And I'm not advocating for what they did. I'm just saying, like Stu said, you need to address the trafficking issue and really fix it. Really fix the problem. Not just play act like you're fixing it. Or like you're trying to clean something up.
Or offer a holiday.
Yeah. It's messed up. So this is what we're going to do. All right. We've got a system in place here that is going to address this issue. And I know a lot of you have been asking, when's this going to come? It's coming right here. You're getting ready to see it. Okay. This is best we can do for now, which I think is pretty good. Now, the Committee for the Government of the United States of America is to investigate the existence of human rights violations committed against the UDHR. It was agreed upon by the 10th of December, 1948. Now, we had a judge, I listened to a judge yesterday sit there and say, well, did the United States of America, meaning the big fan of the United States of America, the 1789, agree to the UDHR? You damn right you did. You got human rights commissions everywhere. So quit your freaking lying off the bench, okay? Commie pinko. So this is the human rights, and also it's enforceable under customary international law. It's been around for 50 years, and all the countries have been using it, including the United States. So the little lying son of a bitches, man. I can't stand communists because they lie all the time. Every word that comes out of their mouth, they're lying. Now, the committee can come in and investigate the existence of human rights and travel and treaty violations. So, alien tort claims are rarely used because a lot of people are not really familiar with how treaty violations are implemented. But if you're an alien, this means that you don't have a social security number and you're not a U.S. citizen. You're part of the States of the Union. You have a nationality. Okay, because back in the day and during the revolution, and those people that fought the revolution thought citizenship was nothing more than subjection as a subject to a king. So they figured we want to be a national. We want to have a nationality, be identified as a nationality. And guess what? There were no citizens there. They said that was against their beliefs at the time. They saw citizens and subjects as the same. So they said, no, we want a nationality, which is our national identity, which forms our international character. Okay, and then the Masons come in and plummet it. So what we're doing here is this. It is declared that here's the individual that's forcing you into the trafficking position. Everything is trafficking, folks. Everything. No matter what. If you are required to give a social security number at any time, that is a trafficking case, and it's in violation of the protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking of persons. In persons, especially women and children. This also involves CPS cases. Okay? Now, any case that anybody sees today, no matter what the case is, it's coming from one of the offshore Internal Revenue trusts. You ask any of them that are in their offices, they will tell you they're public trustees. I've heard it out of their mouth. They are public trustees. When I heard it out of their mouth at the time, I did not understand what they were saying. I do now very well. Very well understand what they're talking about. So as a party of November 3rd, 2005, no matter what case it is, it's a treaty violation. No matter what. Because those offshore trusts are using your person that's been trafficked offshore and under the enemy of with the trading Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917 and the amendment in 1939, when the Social Security was being put together through the Postal Service at the time. They call it the Postal Department. Every case ends up being a trafficking case, no matter what. The second the judge starts opening his mouth, the second a lawyer files anything, your case is a trafficking case. So we made this extremely simple. The UDHR is nothing more than evidence, and each article, there's 30 articles in the UDHR, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which tells you, it's basically a numbering system. It tells you what's been violated when your person's been trafficked. Okay, so for instance, trafficking in persons violates Article 1 and the fact that the spirit of brotherhood is intended to be implemented under full disclosure. Any deception violates that endowment. Okay, so if your social security number was given to you, or you were given a social security number, and you weren't told that your person's being trafficked offshore into an offshore trust and then put back to where you were born as an enemy of that state that you were born in, that's deception.
And not acting in the spirit of brotherhood.
Exactly. That's a class system. Okay, that's Article 1. Trafficking in persons violates Article 2 due to the fact that the secret society is discriminating against all non-members of its Masonic order in order to fulfill its own self-imposed mission, supporting a mission of specific groups intended to be voluntary on the part of the benefactor. So, was anyone asked that they were that they wanted to support the British Israel Union to put together a world government to essentially subject you to somebody that claims to be the heir to King David.
I don't remember being asked that.
I didn't get that memo.
Right.
It didn't come in the mail. I guess it got lost or something because I didn't get that memo. I didn't get that letter. I didn't get that notice. I didn't have anybody ask me. And any mission that removes God-given choice is not a mission under God. Okay? So if it removes choice, which choice was given to people by the Almighty, and that mission requires deception and a removal of choice, you are not protecting the innocent, and you do not have the authority from God. Fair enough?
Seems pretty self-evident. It bewilders me why they think that they, have a moral.
They talk themselves into it, don't they?
A moral stance on it, because it's so self-evident that they're forcing everything and to pull everything they want to attempt to pull off. They have to create this web of deceit. It's just crazy. How do you not see that you're going down the wrong path?
I don't know, man. It's you got to be on some kind of drugs or something. Now, the third person, this is extremely important here. It says trafficking in persons violates Article 3 due to the fact that deceptive transfer of the person violates life, liberty, and security of person. Now, the security of person is people trusted the United States, the U.S., with their administrative record of their identity, who they were, everything. They trusted them with it. That trust has been breached, violated beyond measure. So therefore, the U.S. does not have the right anymore. They've lost that right to even form an administrative record, because you have 450 million counts of violating the security of person.
Not a very good track record. Yeah, put your money in our safe. It'll be good.
Yeah. You might as well, that. Yeah, exactly. That's like train robbers coming on the train and they're taking everybody's money and say, okay, we're going to deposit it in our bank. I mean, seriously. And you're trying to fix that? How are you going to fix that? You can't. So the Masonic Order, your experiment utterly failed. Completely failed. You guys might as well close your doors and come up with some other new name to try to fix this and have real true repentance in the crap that you guys have pulled. In the name of God. In the name of Yahweh. That's what they did. And you expect people now to just trust you? When you traffic their person offshore? Taxed the living crap out of them, gave them some crumbs in return, and said that's a benefit. We have your consent to do this. Seriously? Sick people, man. That's a sick way of thinking, folks. I mean,
doesn't sound too righteous to me.
It's time for self-reflection. Wouldn't you think?
Yep.
Do some little self-reflection. You need to get out there and start a fire in your backyard, sit around the fire and do some self-reflection. Because y'all are messed up in the head. And those people that come on, start making comments on the YouTube, we're sitting there talking about trafficking in persons on that report. They start talking about something completely different. It's like the trafficking in persons never really hit them. They start talking about New Jerusalem. That blew my mind. Now, trafficking persons violates Article 4 due to the fact that the person is held in perpetual debt bondage within the United States by members of the Masonic Order from birth until death of the victim. And you know what? You had their consent to do that. Yeah. All we got to do is the only two things we have to do is pay taxes and die. You have put their mental capacity into a, I don't know, what's the word for that? Despair. They live in despair their whole time they're here. That's what your mission did. You put people in despair their whole life, constantly struggling and worrying about things that they don't have to worry about. They should never have to worry about. That was not the intent of Yahweh, for everybody to live here under despair and worry all the time. You have misrepresented everything that he's about, and that he has told everybody through the books and through the spiritual notices and people coming back from heaven after they died, the whole thing. You completely screwed the whole thing up. You're not representatives of anything.
Yeah, Thoreau had a great quote. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Exactly. What kind of sick stuff is that? In 1914, folks, there was no federal tax. Do y'all get that? It never existed. This was a foreign mission by some people that believed in the British Empire. I've got a little picture that shows that there was no taxes at that time. Not until these bozos came in and started trying to pull their God mission. Trafficking in persons is a condition of cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, especially if the surety is not told that the trafficking condition which causes perpetual confusion, which results in torture of the mind. And this was, no one should be subjected to torture or the cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. And that's exactly what every single judge, lawyer, and police officer is doing on a daily basis. So you can serve whatever freaking God that you guys have decided you're going to serve and force that religion on others. I wanted to tell you, okay, this process right here, what I'm describing to you right here, the committee can hear cases. All it needs is 2 different questions answered, and that's it. And this is what happens. This goes over to the PAGs, private attorney generals across America. Okay, and they're gathering evidence. They'll gather a birth certificate. They'll don't necessarily gather the social security number, but they do say, we need to know that you actually have one. Okay, so we need evidence of the trafficking. That's it. That's all we're doing. So the birth certificate, we don't need a certified copy or specific. We can just get a copy of it to make sure you were born where you say you were born within the states of the Union. We need that evidence. And we need the evidence that you did, in fact, get a social security number. And we need the evidence that you were claiming something, whatever you're claiming, is in fact true. You're not just making it up. Okay? We can get a case through in about 10 minutes or more, about 20 minutes. That case is worth $22,500. That's $22,500,000. And we can run them through like it was on an assembly line. So just need an affidavit. You can send it to the PAGs. John, if you could say what your email is. Just an affidavit. And he'll ask for a specific evidence. That's all we need, because every case is just trafficking. That's it. Doesn't matter the subject matter of the case. It doesn't matter what happened.
We would rather they went through the filing of the system there. This is John Rowe with the PAGs.
You want to go through defenders?
Yeah, it would be better if you went through that, but if they can't get through, they can go to PAGs across America at Comcast.net. So that's PAGS, the word across, ACROSS, America at Comcast.net. But either way, we'll get it, and it will be verified and processed and turned over to the committee to review it.
Okay, and the it's defenders at humanrightsdefenders.international, spelled out international. So that's defenders at humanrightsdefenders.international. If that email comes back or anything like that, just send it to the PAGs. But either way, I think he wants it sent to the human rights defenders so there's a record of it.
Okay, and that is correct, because there's quite a few cases in this country. It's done daily by, I have no idea, by the millions on a daily basis.
That's right. So, folks, if you're complaining about Muslims coming over here, which I do, I don't have any issues with at all about those complaints, they're actually being trafficked into offshore trusts. They're being trafficked. Their persons are being trafficked. They're trafficked people. They just don't know it. They know it now. So we can get any of these cases through a very short period of time, and we do not ignore international due process. So the people that are being accused will get served. They will have to be served by international notary, and that process will go through. There will be a motion with the Human Rights Tribunal at the end. This process will take anywhere from 30 to 40 days as far as the due process is concerned, because the ministers at the Human Rights Tribunal and the judges at the GPMC, they check for due process issues. And they want to make sure that everybody got notice. They knew where the court was being held. They had a chance to defend themselves and all that before they are convicted or the United States is convicted of a treaty violation. And 30 articles at $750,000 a piece, which comes to $22,500. Every case is the exact same case. It's all coming from the offshore trust. And all we're doing is, if you really want to mop something up, you have to shut off the faucet. You can't keep mopping while the faucet's still on. So we got to shut that faucet off. Because this mission of the British Israel world order thing has turned into nothing more than a nightmare. When in episode 19, broadcast 19, we explain it as Elohim City, but in reality, it is New Jerusalem. All this has already been done. They have wasted billions upon trillions of dollars doing something that was done 2,000 years ago. And the reason why they did that is so they could have control of it. They want to control. That's the only purpose. So what we're getting is from a lot of people, and we're going to close with this. A reflection on why people come here. We get a lot of people, and there's a lot of talking that goes on, especially in our meetings, in our committee meetings, and our assembly and everything else. We want the local police and the local guys that really don't. I mean, a lot of them know what they're doing, like judges and stuff, but I don't think they see what, I don't think they realize they're in some kind of freaking stupor. I don't know what the hell it is. It's like they're in a trance. But we want them to understand that most of the people that are giving you guys the finger, they're fighting from being trafficked. And they're fighting for their intangible property rights. We had a judge the other day. He starts talking, and he starts saying, essentially what the gist of what he was saying was, is you have a right to travel, okay? And we don't argue right to travel, by the way. I'm just saying what he said. You can walk anywhere you want to go. You can ride a bicycle where you want to go. But when it comes to motor vehicles, that's a different animal. Okay, so what he's saying is that they acknowledge your right, intangible property right to own property, except when it comes to an automobile. That's communist that says that. The state should own that. That's essentially what the man was saying. So, yes, the local judges, just want to verify with everybody that is listening to this program, local judges are pure communists. And by stating that, you're getting a lot of people, especially they're coming here and coming to this government and trying to correct these things and do these things that need to be done to get this thing corrected and fixed. Internally, deep within their heart, they know that what communism is wrong. They know that's against their internal covenant with God. I say God because I'm talking to the public and that's how they know him, okay? They know that internally affects that. They know that way is wrong. So you communist judges, you're messing with people's religious rights. It's exactly what you're doing. It may not come out communication-wise from these people because a lot of them just don't know how to communicate well or really communicate what they're feeling. But that's essentially what's going on. And this is coming from, thousands of interviews, thousands of times talking to people and really getting down to the brass tacks of what's going on and what's going on in their heart and why they feel the way they do. They're using all kinds of tactics and everything else to tell you to back off. You're messing with a man's relationship with his God, and you're messing with his religion. Okay, and his internal covenant that he knows is there. And you may look at him and call him a sovereign citizen, and he doesn't want to go by the law and all this other kind of crap, but your laws are based on trafficking in persons, of which you breached that trust. And you took choice away in violation of a mandate from the very God you profess that you serve. That's called a hypocrite. It's time for some self-reflection. You need to go back and rethink this. Meanwhile, since you're so stubborn, you're going to constantly get hit with judgments of 22.5, 22.5, 22.5. We could do it all day. And it's going to be owed by the British, the United States, and the Masonic Lodge and the Masonic Temple back to the States of the Union. That's called repentance for all the crap you stole and wasted and all the trust you breached and the hypocritical crap and the mind torture that you placed on people because of your so-called mission. When your mission was already completed. All you had to do was implement it and then tell everybody what you were implementing. You see, the government of the United States of America doesn't lie to American nationals. It doesn't lie to its residents. It doesn't lie to its general postmasters. It tells them straight up front, yeah, we can pay you continental dollars, but right now you can't really spend them anywhere. Why? Because of your stupid mission. You're the problem. And they know that. Every one of them know that. We're straight up front with them. We tell them our weaknesses, what we can do, what we can't do. We don't hide anything. That's what government's supposed to do. Not all this deceptive, stupid crap that you guys pull. To try to look powerful and to try to look this and look like that. You've reduced yourself to nothing other than Saddam Hussein putting a picture on television of a guy standing there with a big gun, trying to make it appear as if he's a powerful dictator, and the Americans aren't doing anything while their city is burning. Nothing to see here. That's how foolish you look. Your emperor has no clothes, and I'm telling you right now, you got no clothes. So whatever you guys are doing, you need to repent and come back to choice. If someone doesn't want a social security number and a U.S. citizen and all that, they have a place to go. That's called the government of the United States of America. And when you sit there and we've had this happen a couple of times by you arrogant bastards, that a man shows you his oath and affirmation to a government, you damn well better respect it. If you expect us to respect your oath to your mission in your Masonic lodge, then you damn well will reciprocate with that respect. Or guess what? You're going to get hit with 22.5. And we follow international due process. And when that international due process is followed and is completed, there ain't a damn thing you can do, and you damn well can't turn it into a felony. Because traffickers have no standing, legally or otherwise, anywhere in the world. So the crap that you guys are pulling, this crap ends now. Y'all got anything else to say?
No, that was pretty good finish. Just I think the main point is that we realize that shifting personas and replacing faces on TV isn't addressing the real issue, and I think we've made that abundantly clear today.
Thank you for listening to the 55th episode or broadcast of the T-roh Show. We do appreciate the likes, and we do appreciate the subscriptions, the subscribe. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you next week.